The work of conservation practitioners has never been more important. With so many seemingly overwhelming conservation challenges that we face, it may be hard to decide just where to begin. Fortunately, the conservation standards provide a basic framework to do just that. The first step in the cycle is assess, and this part of the process is all about defining the focus of your project and assessing your conservation situation. The conservation standards are extremely flexible and you can jump in at any part of the cycle. You might already have the focus of your project figured out, but it can be helpful to review the current context as a narrative or situation model diagram, re-evaluate your team, and reflect on your conservation focus. Ready to dive in? The first phase of this step begins by clarifying the purpose of your project. This involves reviewing your organization's mission and priorities and aligning with partners and donors. Identifying your project team is important and is typically guided by your project lead, who helps identify and recruit members from your organization's staff and key partners, such as government agencies, local communities, and indigenous peoples. It is important to remain flexible and adapt the team composition as needed based on ongoing collaborator analysis. The second part of the assess step is about defining the vision and purpose of your project. It is helpful to come up with a vision statement which outlines the long-term aspirations and ultimate condition that a team is working to achieve. Whether it's improving the status of a wildlife population, combating the threat of wildlife trade, or empowering a community to conserve natural resources. Next, your team will define the key ecosystems and species you hope to conserve and the elements of human well-being that are most critical to your work. It is then important to identify and prioritize critical threats or pressures to your target species and ecosystems. These are typically current or future human activities or altered natural phenomena that impact one or more ecosystems or species targets. The final action to complete the assess step of the conservation standards is to consolidate knowledge, insights, and information from key partners to do your situation analysis. You then develop a situation model and/or a narrative to describe how your key species, ecosystems, and elements of human well-being are impacted by threats and opportunities. To learn more about how important this step can be in setting teams up to achieve conservation impact, we turn to Lu An, President and Founding Director of Save the Golden Lion Tamarin.
We first carried out the assess step in 2015 to help us develop a 10-year strategic plan to reach a viable population of golden lion tamarins in the wild. Up until that time, we'd carried out a series of short-term actions to bring the population of GLTs back from the brink of extinction. However, each of these actions was conducted as a separate project. We really needed a unified plan. Together, we were able to prioritize the threats and identify opportunities for new feasible interventions and prioritize them according to their potential long-term impact on the conservation of GLTs. The assess step has helped us develop our mission into a goal. We've also, through this step, been able to develop new partnerships to carry out the interventions that we've identified. We've made real progress in actually reducing those threats and moving toward our goal.
The conservation standards offer a structured approach to tackle the challenges of today. The assess step lays the groundwork by defining purpose, assembling teams, setting scope and vision, identifying key ecosystems and species, understanding the threats, and conducting a situation analysis. By breaking down this process into actionable steps, we pave the way for meaningful conservation impact. To learn more about the conservation standards, visit us online and check out the Conservation Measures Partnership to connect with other organizations who have adopted the standards. The next video in the series describes the second step, plan, which is where you take a situational analysis and turn it into actionable strategies.